Hello BookTube, hello book friends, welcome or welcome back to my channel and another video. It's weekly reading catch-up time. It's Friday the 14th of February today, St. Valentine's Day. So I'm recording this a little bit early because we have family stuff over the weekend, and rather than trying to sit down and squeeze a video in whilst we've got family and friends here, it seemed easier to do it today. I'm not sure much will change between now and tomorrow other than possibly finishing a book which I'll talk about in due course. So what have I been reading this week? Well, I've had a good week this week. I think I've read completed three books, and nearly finished two others. So I reckon that's pretty good, for me at least. And I feel a little bit sad about a couple of the books that I've read this week. I'll explain why in a minute. I've enjoyed everything I've read this week, which has been good. So let's start. Where should we start? I've read the final two books in Bernard Cornwell's Sharp series, which is Sharp's Devil and Sharp's Command. Is that going to open? Yes, it is. And Sharp's Command. Now, there is, I think, looking at upcoming books, there is I can't remember the name of it now. There is another Sharp book coming, possibly later this year, and I think it's been delayed previously. So whether I'm assuming it will be published. I think they would have said by now if it wasn't. So that's what I'm a little bit sad about, because I've finished that series. I started reading it back in, I think it was 2014, maybe 2015. I've got the first half a dozen or so in a Kindle Daily deal for like 99p each. I thought, well, if I don't like them, it's 99p, isn't it? And you know, it's a risk I was willing to take. And I think surprised myself by enjoying them. And then just I've been, you know, been reading, I don't know, one or two a year for the last few years, and then in the last couple of years I kind of picked the pace up quite a bit, and read quite a few last year, and the year before, and finished the two this year. So Sharp's Devil is mostly set in Chile, and is basically Sharp, having retired and settled in France, to farm, is approached by a former friend, whose husband was battling rebels for the Spanish army in Chile, and has disappeared. And she asks Sharp to go and see if he can find her husband, which is the basic premise to the story. And that was really good. I really enjoyed that. It's one of the better books, albeit published more recently. And then Sharp's Command is, I've been reading the books in chronological order. So from when he started in the Indian campaign right through the Peninsular War, Spain, France, Battle of Waterloo, etc. But this one is set back into the series. So although it was published a couple of years ago, it's set back into about halfway through the series, I think. And it's a fantastic read. It's a fairly typical Sharp book in that Sharp goes off to fight a battle, and there are overwhelming odds, and pretty much he overcomes the odds and wins at the end of the day. Um, and that's not spoilers because that's formulaic throughout the series. So this book, however, because it's set back, has characters in it who don't appear in earlier books and don't appear in later books, but are characters that I'm familiar with, having read the series. It's got Sharp's first wife in, so it was interesting to see her come back. And she plays a much bigger role than she has in other books. And it's interesting to see their relationship and so on. So yeah, I've thoroughly enjoyed those two books, but I am a bit sad that I finished the series, at least for now. And if there is another book coming, I think that would make 25 books in total. No, 24. Well, yeah, I think it makes 25. Kindle's telling me um, there's 24 items there's 24 books in the series. Yeah, 25. So yeah, that'll be interesting, but we'll see when that comes out. Maybe it's a Christmas present or something like that. So yeah, really enjoyed those two. Bit sad about finishing the series. So now I'm kind of thinking, well, where do what takes its place? Does anything take its place? And then sandwiched between those two, couldn't resist, was Sandwich, Catherine Newman's novel that Nick at Dr. Cranky Pants Reads very kindly sent to me. If you've seen an earlier video, you'll know how that came about, so I won't rehash that. I enjoyed this more than I thought I was going to. I was a little bit nervous uh, about it when it arrived, because to be fair, if I was in a bookshop, this isn't a book I might pick it up for the cover art to find out what it's all about. So the Bikini Toast, but it's not a book that I would pick it up and read. The Flyleaf and probably no, I'm not. It's not for me. Given that I read kind of spy thrillers and things like that, it's not a spy thriller. It is very much a how to describe it. It's a bit of a short family saga, and it's mostly set at the family's Cape Cod holiday cottage and the surrounding area, although there's throwbacks to previous times, and different things like that interweave into the story to make the story what it is. But it is about Rocky, who is mother of two kids, her husband, the son's girlfriend, and later in the book, her parents arrive, and their cat. Well, the cat's there from the beginning. Sorry, the parents arrive later. The cat's there the whole time, and just sort of what's going on in the family. I found it's written with humour, and the humour comes out, and it is quite a funny book at times. It's also quite a very sad book at times, and there are bits that are actually quite tough to read. But overall, I enjoyed it. As I say, not a book I would necessarily pick up if I saw it in a bookstore, or buy if I saw it in a bookstore. But yeah, it was an interesting change for me from the sort of normal books that I read, and I think it shows the power of BookTube in a way that you can step out of your comfort zone and read things that you wouldn't normally read. So yeah, if that kind of funny family vibe is your thing, then I would recommend Sandwich to you. But be warned, there are some triggers in there. I would said, and they're not. Um, they're not signposted at the start, if that makes sense. It doesn't, so just bear that in mind. And I can't really say what they are without kind of spoiling the book, so I'm not going to do that. So yeah, that's Sandwich. There is one thing I would like to say in addition. I was gifted this book, and I would like to pay that forward. So if you would like to read this copy of Sandwich, drop a comment below. And what's today? The 14th. So let's say by this roundabout Monday or Tuesday, so what's that, the 17th or the 18th, I will pick someone. I'll randomly pick someone from the comments and just I will send you the book. I will pay the book forward because I think that's the right thing to do, given that I was gifted this. So yeah, that's Sandwich. I've also been reading for Holmes is Where the Heart Is, some more Sherlock Holmes. I'm week 2 is short stories. So I've been reading his Last Bow. I think I've got 2 to go, or is it 3? I think it's 2. Yes, I've got 2 to go. So I should finish this probably. Well, I'll finish it soon, depending on how the weekend goes. It's going to be quite a busy weekend. And I'm also currently reading How to Win an Information War by Peter, I'm going to fluff this, Pomerantsev. So this is predominantly about Sefton Delmar, who was a journalist before the start of the Second World War, but it covers some of his backstory as well. He was born just before the start of the First World War, so there's some of that in there as well. His dad was a professor at Berlin University before the First World War, was interned for a period as an enemy alien, and they're a mixture of, I think it's British Australian family, but he was born in Germany, I think I'm right in saying that. But he very much sees himself as British. He is educated in Britain. He starts work for the Daily Express, the British newspaper. Becomes the Berlin correspondent because obviously he speaks perfect German. And then at the start of the Second World War, he starts to work for the Special Operations Executive in the Political Warfare Executive, which is about what he's doing is about spreading propaganda to the German people about how bad the government is and how bad Hitler is, and so he's kind of a journalist turned not spy, but allied agent, for want of a better term, and it's fascinating. It is peppered with a little bit of modern propaganda. So there's bits in there about Russia, Ukraine, bits in there about ISIS. So there's all, I'm about 2/3 of the way through, so I haven't finished it yet. But it is a fascinating read, and you can see how things like Gaza, other conflicts around the world, how propaganda plays a role, and how it's not necessarily the intuitive, what you would think of as intuitive. It's very clever in the sense that it's not the obvious. It's not just saying that Hitler's a bad guy, don't support Hitler. It's much more nuanced and clever than that. And I think at the moment, for although it's set predominantly in the 30s and 40s, 1930s, 1940s. It's so relevant to what's happening at the moment and around the world. So yeah, I'm thoroughly enjoying that. It's reminded me that I haven't read much non-fiction this year so far. Normally it's kind of 50-50 split between fiction and non-fiction in my reading, and I think it's more like 25 non-fiction, 75 fiction at the moment. So I want to get the non-fiction back up and read probably more history books, because that's kind of the non-fiction, that and natural history, which I've mentioned before, that I enjoy. So yeah, expect more from me on the non-fiction front in the coming weeks. So that's it. This weekend is, of course, the Wasted Weekend, and where everybody gets to read trashy fiction ahead of If You Can't Wait for Garb August in August. I'm a bit stymied for this weekend, so I'm going to try and find something short and trashy that I can read in the little bit of the weekend that I'm going to have to myself and not spent with the family. But if not, I think maybe we'll have next weekend as the Wasted Weekend instead. We'll see how that pans out. Maybe I'll have the Wasted Week and go into next week and read trashy fiction all week. I don't know. Anyway, if you have been, thank you for watching, and I will speak to you again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.